When did tarot first come into your life?
Uh-oh.
I think for me it would have been quite early on when I started stalking everyone on YouTube. As you kind of get into West Coast swing and you get the bug, I guess, everyone jumps online and starts watching all these videos. And I think the first one I would have seen would have been a Swing Station one from years ago.
Probably.
And I just remember seeing you and thinking, oh my gosh, she has so much sass and attitude, and it was just really cool. So I think for me, yeah, that would probably be how I stumbled across tarot, first of all. Yeah. What about you, Michael?
My one was the Maxence dance. The Maxence dance, I think it was the 4th of July or something like that, where he judo trips you up.
God.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that was so sexy, so smooth. But that was definitely the first time I kind of saw you. I was like, who the heck's she? Man, she handled that with grace. Like, who gets tripped up like that and like still like, damn, that was so freaking cool. That was so freaking cool. So I guess our guest today, you guys all know, is Tara Trafzer. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming on our podcast.
Yeah, thanks guys for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. It's kind of the end of a long trip in New Zealand,
Woo!
but it's been phenomenal. If you guys get the chance, definitely come down here and get some dancing in, and then go see the beautiful country as well. Yeah.
We've got some icebreakers.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of struggled to pick one for you because there's so many that I wanted to ask.
Do them all, why not?
Yeah, there you go. So the first question that I've got for you actually is, in terms of your own dance style, if you could pick an animal to represent you on the dance floor, like what animal you embody, what would you choose?
Definitely a chicken for Leo. For those of you who don't know, this is Leo the chicken. We got him in Swingtime Denver, and he's been going around on travels with me throughout. I don't know. That's a really good one.
I've been called a platypus before.
A platypus?
Yeah. I'm a freak of nature.
Yeah,
I'm
like a mystical hybrid, right?
Yeah. A mammal that lays eggs as well, yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I didn't know that about you. I don't know. Now I'm blanking on animals. Yeah, I mean, my first thought is like, hey, the chicken from Moana, but I feel like that's not necessarily, because he's pretty dumb, but like, I think of myself as being kind of smart, I guess. An animal. Something like maybe like a monkey, like a little wild, crazy. I'll yell things randomly. I swing through trees, do the splits randomly. Just something.
Actually, talking.
You never know where I am. I don't know.
My next little thing I'd love to know. I've got a video of you, and I'd love to know what was going through your mind at this particular point in time. Tell us your thoughts when
So for the people that cannot see the video right now, this is a dance between Tara and Leo.
Yeah, at TAP
At
2022.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah.
Well, right as the song came on, right as Pony came on, there was someone in the audience, like the champion audience behind me, and they yelled, "F him up, Tara!" And so that was just my mentality from there. It was like, we're gonna F things up. And I won't say the full word, but yeah, they yelled that. And so I just thought, I know the song, I know where the hits are, I feel very comfortable being a little wild and out there, as you guys probably know. And so let's put on a show, right? And this was obviously non-swing content related, so it wasn't not in our traditional form of swing content, I should say. So this was non-swing content. It's just a fun show that they do. There's actually teams in the audience at TAP who vote for the winners, and so I was just thinking, like, how do I showcase some fun and having a good time and the love of the dance, which is kind of what my constant mentality is. This one just became a little bit more like, F him up, Tara.
So how did you know that he was going to jump through?
Sort of. So Leo had told me some different things that he had wanted to potentially do, and he had showed me this move, and I was like, I'm very big on like it's a strictly, I don't like planning things. It's not choreographed. So for me, it was like, okay, well, what's the setup for it, and then. Basically, like if I don't put my hands there, you can't jump through. So it's kind of up to me if I feel inclined to do so. And so with the music and then with the song, I got the spin out, and then I was like, all right. And so I went ahead and I put my hands up, and then he jumped through it. And we had practiced it once, mostly because I was terrified, because I didn't want to die. And you never know with things like that. And so I was like, that is absolutely terrifying. However, as long as I don't have to jump through, I am fine. And then that's why he does the joke after, and I go and I step through it because I was like, no, I'm too old and precious to be jumping through hoops anymore. Not nature.
Yeah, you don't jump through hoops.
Don't jump.
You make them jump through
Yeah,
hoops.
you got to make
That's right.
you got to make the boys jump through hoops, right? Yeah, you got to make those all-stars just jumping through hoops. No, I'm just kidding, but yeah,
welcome to Champions.
yeah,
guys. Initiation.
That's an all-star champion strictly. It counts. Yeah. But yeah, like so that's how it's set up because I don't like pre-choreographing things. Like I don't mind like discussing some ideas. I don't mind practicing beforehand. But it's I get that question a lot of like, was this preordained? And I'm like, well, kind of, but not really. That was still kind of up to me. So had I opted not to put the hands there, then we wouldn't have done it.
So I actually just want to know a little bit about your, like, how you got into West Coast Swing and what led you to decide to make this a professional thing for you. Like, how did you fall into it? How long have you been dancing? And what made you decide this is it, this is what I'm doing?
Yeah, so I have two older sisters, and so I started dancing when I was 2 years old. I did Mommy and Me, tap, ballet, and jazz. And I grew up doing all of the solo dances, hula, jazz, tap, ballet, contemporary, hip-hop, from 2 to 10. And I was at a studio that was not competition-based, did a lot of shows, but a lot of the same shows, just kind of recycling the same numbers over and over and over again. And so the numbers that my sisters had that then would pass down kind of to me, and nothing changed. We'd do the Nutcracker every year, and it was the same numbers, the same pieces. So nothing really changed, and I got really bored of it. And I actually tried veering off and doing more basketball. I'm a huge basketball fan. Yeah, I'm a little short. I didn't quite make the pros. A little short for it, but I loved basketball. And as soon as everyone else grew, I did not. And so that kind of ended my my basketball career. Although if the Lakers are interested, I'm still highly available. I don't think anyone would expect it, so just let me know.
I'm a Golden State fan. I'm a Golden. Yeah, Steph, if you hear this.
Listen, I mean, Steph Curry is fantastic, right? We'll talk basketball later. But, no one can touch Kobe Bryant, all right? I'm just saying. No one can touch my Kobe Bryant. But yeah, so I grew up a basketball fan, so I wanted to play that. My height kind of limited the opportunities for that. And so I was still dancing a little, and we went out to this jazz convention out in Palm Springs, and they were covering classes from different instructors from all across the U.S. And we took this class called Lifts and Drops. And out walk Buddy and Lori Schwimmer, and they're doing these crazy cool lifts and drops. Benji's there with his dance partner and cousin Heidi. Yeah. Lacey was there with her partner, and they're doing all sorts of these cool lifts and drops. And it just seems really awesome. I've never seen anything like this. And definitely not in a class setting. We're like, I could do it too. And then at the end of the class, they're talking about their dance studio. They teach jazz, tap, contemporary ballet, all of those things, but then they also do this dance called West Coast Swing. And their studio is maybe 15 minutes from our house, and I was like, oh, I want to go. So I talked to my mom about it, and we started doing West Coast Swing 1 lessons. Benji was my first instructor. He started teaching, I think he was like 16 or 17 at the time. He was pretty young and was teaching the class. And so I first started learning West Coast Swing. And then Lori and Buddy came to me and they said, well, we have a partner. Do you want to do this? And I was like, I have no idea what that means. And it was actually Nicole Ramirez now, but Nicole Clonch's half-brother. And so they paired us together and we started doing a routine. And then Lori asked me to be on the jazz team that they had. It was called Dancing Divas at the time, and Tori was on it. And so I started doing more jazz classes and contemporary and all of the solo styles and just kind of slowly transitioned into their studio. So I was about I think I was still 10 it was 10 or 11 at the time. And my older sisters had started taking classes there as well. And we had seen this routine that Benji and Heidi did, and it just like blew my mind. It was a showcase routine, and it just, I was in awe. I was like, I want to do that. Like, that's so cool. And, you know, our routine at the time was pretty minimal. We were still learning West Coast swing and getting into it. And I was like, I didn't realize we could do that. Like, that's so cool. And so a couple months before the U.S. Open, a couple had dropped out on their formation team that they had, which was, I think, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is still the only juniors formation team in West Coast swing, not Shag. Like Brenner has the Shag junior formation team, but I think it was the only West Coast swing junior formation team. I could be wrong, but that might be wrong. But I think there might have been adults on it for the other team that I'm thinking of, which was the Jumpstart 1. History and facts, that's not important. But I mean, we were like kids. Like, we were like 10 to 15 years old. We were pretty young. And so they put me on that team, and Lacey was my partner. They had Lacey be the leader because it was 2 months before the Open. I had been learning West Coast swing. They needed another partnership, and yep, you're going to do it. Nice. And so we got third at the U.S. Open. We did a song called like Johnny Be Good. And then after that, the next year, my partner at the time had kind of decided they didn't want to do it. And so I had a new partner named Johnny Dessel, and he was my juniors partner throughout. And so he and I were put on the team. Lacey was able to dance with her partner then as a follower. The next year, in 2004, we got second at the U.S. Open. And then in 2005, we got first. And I think we were the first juniors formation team to win. But again, you can correct me if I am wrong on that history fact. So then I started doing, West Coast on the formation team. I was on their jazz team that they had. And then my partner and I were competing in young adult. And we would travel, we would compete. Now, at that time, we were also doing 5-6 hours a day at the studio. So I'd go to school, I'd come home, go train all day. Thursdays, I think, was the day that we would do our formation team for 2 hours. And then Saturdays, if we were not traveling at events, we would spend 3 hours in the morning on our formation team. We'd have a 30-minute break for lunch, and then 3 hours on our jazz team, in particular, leading into the Open. So the training was really substantial and heavy that we were doing. At the same time, I was still doing point. I was still doing ballet to an extent, and I had done a summer internship program out at a location called Ballet Pacifica in Irvine, and they had actually asked me to apply for their full-time program. They wanted me to be like a full-on ballerina, and I just didn't love it that much. I liked it, I didn't love it, and you really have to love ballet in order to do it full-time. It's a lot, and I love watching it. I don't necessarily love dancing it 100%.
What age did you get on point?
I want to say I was like 12 or 13. Yeah.
That's early, isn't it?
It's pretty early, yeah. And there's kind of varying opinions as to when people should be on point. Mm-hmm. I didn't love point. It hurt my feet a lot. But you're rolling up on your toes and down. There's not a lot of padding there. And everyone has preferences as to how much, padding. And do you have the gel or, cotton or different things like that. And then which point shoes are comfortable or not. So I wasn't on point very long. I did more of just kind of your generic ballet. But if I had gone through this program, I definitely would have had to do more of the point, which I didn't really want to do either.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I opted not do that. I stayed with the Schwimmers and continued training. Johnny and I did really well with our partnership and our competition. And I think it was around 15 or 16 that I had decided that I really wanted to do it like full time. Like, I really loved what I was doing. I saw others who were really paving the way, including, the Benji, the Jordan and Tots, the Kyle and Sarahs, who were really making their mark and were being hired to travel and to teach and to do basically what we do now consistently. And they really kind of set that up for a lot of us in the generation after. And that was really incredible to see that and go, oh, I can do that too. Like, that's really cool. So I continued my training. I continued working on West Coast swing. I think by 16 or 17, I had made All-Stars and was dancing in the All-Star Champs. At that point, All-Stars really wasn't what it is today. Like, the All-Star division was it would exist in some places, but a lot of the times it was like an all-star champs division when they had an invitational, which was for their staff, or like even Swing Diego up until I think the last few years, I don't think, and when Swing Diego was at its peak, right, like it's one of the largest events that had existed, there wasn't an all-star division. It was like you danced advanced or you danced champions. It was just like you separated it that way. So even at some of the larger events, it was like, you know, you kind of got separated into this, and you had to figure out, you know, which one are you going to do. And yeah, so like it was in that range, right? That's why it's not like I was an all-star or I was a champion. It was kind of like in that mixture of trying to create that that established position.
Was
and
WSDC around at that particular time?
yes,
Like,
yeah,
it was
definitely.
already? Okay.
Yeah, a fun game to play is what's your WSDC number, in fact, to see how old you are. And they recategorized a lot of the early people who were in there, and I think they just did it alphabetically, because like we were playing this game and I was with Lorene Valdovi and I was like, what's your number? And she was like 60 or something. I was like, oh my God. She was like, yeah, they kind of like went back and recategorized it. I want to know who's number one though. I need to look that up. But my number is 3805. So I was in the 3000s. So I was quite a way back. What's your guys'?
I'm 9,100, I think it is.
9,100?
I have no idea, but I'm 5 digits.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's amazing how many. So now thinking about it, like 3,000, then we're in 5 digits. That's that many more people that's dancing West Coast Swing competitively.
Yeah. It's insane.
And they're the ones that's gotten points.
Yeah.
You know,
just the ones who've gotten points. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
right. So it's not just isn't that like that growth throughout the time that you've been doing it?
Oh, is substantial, and that's a thing that I think like we don't often recognize or remember, of just like, you know, how it really kind of spread and took hold of all these different locations. And like I remember going to Europe in the early, you know, I think 2010 was my first time traveling abroad to teach, and it was in France, and it was awesome. And that was when I first met, like I had met Maxence for a while. He had been traveling over in the States and was there teaching and
Is this before
dancing.
or after the sweep?
This was before. So I knew him. I met Maxence, I think, when I was about 14, if I remember.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in the States for a very long time. He had met, if I remember correctly, he met Jordan and Tot when they were over there teaching. And there was like a small like subset of teaching of West Coast Swing at an event that was teaching all these other styles. He met them and then came over here and started training and traveling and had met a bunch of us. So I've known Maxence for a very long time. The kick that you're referring to is 2009.
I didn't say kick. It's a
sorry, the sweep. The controversial sweep too. It can be a little controversial. Can be. But yeah, it resurfaced a few years ago, and it just became this big issue. And I remember it was right before Swingsation, actually, when we were there. And it became this like big issue of like, oh, how cool. And then others being like, how dare he do this? And I was like, whoa, guys, like, it's all good, you know? Like, he knows what he's doing, you know? Like,
trained professional.
Yeah, like,
what we're doing.
Yeah, and like, he didn't drop me either. Like, he fully catches me. He doesn't kick me. He displaces my weight. Like, but it was funny to see people's responses, just the extremes on either side going nuts.
Internet, eh? Gosh.
Yeah, right? Some funny, controversial opinions pop up there. But yeah, so that's kind of most of my journey. I've danced in classic, I've danced in showcase. I started emceeing. I got that start years ago, probably around 2012, 2013. I got an offer to MC at Sin City, actually, which was Earl and Parker's event that they had. And that kind of kick-started the emceeing for me. And I've been a judge, a teacher. I still teach jazz, contemporary, musical theater, stuff like that locally. I'll teach that at events as well, and then West Coast Swing. I teach alone. I teach with partners. Still competing, still doing all the things. But yeah, it's been a fun ride.
You mentioned about competition, and I just want to sort of hone in on that a little bit. So you're obviously a judge. You've competed a lot. What sort of advice would you give to people that are starting off in their West Coast Swing journey? And I know a lot of people struggle with competition and trying to, deal with the outfall of either placing or not placing.
Performing in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Oh man, scares the bejeebers out of me.
Oh, I prefer it. I'll take a spotlight any day. Yeah, over a prelim. Yeah, 100%. I'll tell you why too. Yeah. But yeah, so like for people who are just starting out, I think one, it's really important to remember that your journey is your journey, right? When you start, when you spend 5 years in novice and then a year in intermediate and then months in advance, like that's your own personal journey, and you cannot compare it to anyone else's. And we love to compare ourselves to others, which is the whole basis of competition in general, right? Like we're being judged against other people around us, and we have to try to forget that, right? Like your journey is your journey, and how much you put in is, generally speaking, how much you will get out of it. And so, like, there was, I don't know if it was you guys I was talking to the other day about this, but there was this guy who was wanting to take my level 3 class in Southern California, and one of the questions was, well, how long have you been dancing? And he said 10 years. And I was like, okay, but that's not a good measure, right? Because if you mean one dance once a month with no classes, not traveling anywhere, you come in for 30 minutes, you do the dance, you go home. I guarantee that at the peak of my training, I did more than, you've done in 10 years than I did more in like a week that you did in like 10 years, right? Like it's just not equitable. So how much time and energy have you put in to get things back from your dancing? And not all dances are the same. Like, one of the great things about down here is you guys have the modern jive and this rock scene, right? And there's a competition this weekend happening. And like my solo training, transitioning into West Coast swing, a lot of country dancing, transitioning into West Coast, those aren't 100% equal. Like just because I'm good at one doesn't mean that I'll be great at the other. That means I have an understanding of dance, it has an understanding of movement, but it's a lot of how do I translate and what's the difference, right? So like transitioning from solo dancing into West Coast swing, I really struggled with 6-count rhythms because in jazz there are 8-count rhythms. So I would add 2 beat increments at the end and call it a day. Or landing where we land on the beat, right? Because in jazz there is no top of the beat versus the back of the beat versus the front of the beat. You land on one. And if you don't land on one, you're off time, so you do it again. And so understanding that difference took a lot of time because I would hear you're too fast, and I just didn't get it until it like clicked. And so it just takes some time. And so the first thing is it's not necessarily 100% translatable. So if I'm a champion contemporary dancer, that doesn't mean I'm a champion West Coast swing dancer, right? Or vice versa. And then 2, how do I take that knowledge and then apply it to the dance that I'm currently trying to learn? And being okay with the fact that I'm doing this in a different way. I might have to start over and, go through these ranks again. That's perfectly fine. Then the other thing is that when we're starting, like the difference between the prelim and the final, right? Spotlight versus no spotlights. A lot of that is, especially in like a prelim format, when do I see you, right? And then how are you dancing in that moment? And then how are you dancing in relation to everyone else around you? And those are the key important features, because I think we get so caught up on like, well, this judge doesn't like me and they saw me at this moment or whatever it might be.
They gave me an 8.
Yeah, right. They gave me a no and
everyone else gave me a yes.
Yes, exactly.
I got a 4.5 from that one. What?
Yeah, like why did I get the alternate versus or the third alternate versus this? And it's all it's a non-defined dance, so it's very subjective as to what we're looking at in that moment and then what I'm seeing in that moment. So with all the variables present, like for me, I'm going to dance the dance that I want to present. I'm going to do the things that I have been training to do, in theory, right? And taught to do. And then it's so much of a game of chance, The variables that I control in this dance are me, and that's it. My emotion, my mood, what I'm wearing, how I move on that floor. That's what I control. I don't control the music, I don't control the rotation, I don't control my partner, I don't control when the judges see me. So there's a big game of chance in there as well that I can't take too personally, right? Okay, like dancers tend to need to have an etch-a-sketch mindset, right? Like football, right? Like if I'm a American football, I should specify. Not soccer, sorry. American football, right? The footy ball. If a quarterback throws an interception, right? They're not going to go back out and just never throw the ball again, right? Like they have to etch a sketch, go back out, reset, throw the ball, make sure they're landing it, right? What did I learn from this? Then how do I move forward? And so we have to have that etch-a-sketch mindset, in my opinion. It's one time, one comp. And that's easier said, I think, for me or for people in the States because there's so many more competitions. I think it's easier to take it more personally because you guys have, what, 3, 4?
We got 3.
Three
3 in
right.
New Zealand, yeah.
And that's hard. If you're like, I'm one of 3 and I didn't make it, that's really rough. That's a difficult position to be in.
You've got 4 months driving up to that one competition.
Yeah.
Everything's driving on that.
On that.
No,
Yeah.
I'm practicing to get into the finals, and I didn't make finals. Oh, it's 3 months. It feels like 3 months of hard work, and I've been there. A lot of New Zealanders have been there.
Yeah. And it's crappy, right? Like it's not a fun position to be in. But I find if we try to find the positives of the weekend in general. What did I learn? Who did I get to hang out with? Who did I get to spend time with? And what was the rewards from that? That always tends to help create a balance in terms of our journey. And the times where I have kind of competed, like especially coming back from the pandemic, I was very much so like, I'm so happy I get to do this. I'm so glad to be back. That like I just don't care. Those are my best dances that I've been able to produce. Like the Bad Habits dance with Ben was kind of that mindset. I was like, all right,
I love that dance.
yeah. I love that dance.
A few times I'm like,
This might be a terrible example because don't do the Bad Habits dance. But
funnily enough, I'm actually doing a workshop called Bad
Yes,
Habits.
yes.
So we're like, we actually watched your video to get inspiration on what bad habits we need to kill. So
excellent. And I love that dance. And like, but my mindset going into it was like, I get who I get, I dance what I dance, and I want to enjoy it and have a good time.
Yeah.
And I drew Ben, we got Bad Habits, and yes. But it's just, it's a lot easier to fall down the rabbit hole of I'm not good enough, and they didn't like me, and they gave me that no. And so the mindsets of like, I'm going to do what I want to do. Ultimately, if my peers like dancing with me, if people are happy with my dances that I produce, that should yield a positive result. And so trying to separate those two, albeit extremely difficult, even for champs that I know, including myself.
Really?
Yeah, it's hard because you're putting, if I don't make a final, that's really hard on me, right? Like because one, it's the thing I do for a career, so then it makes you question, do people look at this and think, well, she didn't make it, and why not, and what does this mean? And I think for dancers in particular, including myself, like, my self-worth feels wrapped up in this, like my worth as a person, because what do? I dance, right? Like that is the thing I do. And although we're more than that, putting a placement and a value on that can be really difficult sometimes.
Yeah, I guess in some ways it's kind of similar to, you go and get your performance review in a traditional setting, right?
Yeah.
But the difference is when you do a performance review, you're actually reviewing yourself.
Right.
As well, generally.
Right.
Like in a professional setting, right? But as a dancer, you don't get to go and say, I did this well,
yeah.
Oh, by the way, did you see this really cool thing that I did in the prelim that, you might not have seen as a judge?
Yeah.
And you can't do the 360 or the 180 feedback and, your peers aren't judging you as well.
Yeah.
So you're literally getting judged on your manager that's seeing, maybe 7 seconds of a prelim.
Yep.
So, yeah, in some ways, I guess that kind of resonates with a lot of people because it's really hard. And I think if you actually realize that, it's actually really important to kind of take that in mind because you don't have influence over all of those variables.
Yeah.
And, that 7 seconds or those 30 seconds that somebody is seeing you for, who knows what they're seeing, and it might have been the worst or the best part of that particular dance.
Yeah, and even if it's the best, what if everyone else is killing it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? So like, what if my best on that day is still not good enough compared to other people's best, right? And because like we've all been in situations where like I have won this competition and I probably shouldn't have, right? Right, I just probably shouldn't have. And then I've lost where it's like, I probably might have. okay, I could have won that one, right? And it's so subjective to the moment, right? Like there was a contest one time where everyone was like, even my peers, they're like, you totally should have won. And I'm like, I don't control that, but thank you, right? Like, I appreciate it. And like, I'd rather hear that than the opposite, right? Like, I'd rather hear like, you deserve to win than like, which, you know, people do say things, right, in this community, so, right? But it's such a fascinating way that we try to judge things and equate things. And so, like, to me, it's like, if you do have questions and you want to ask a judge, like, by all means, but like, what I don't like is like, if I'm judging and then like, so say you guys just danced, right? And you see the scores and I give you a no or an alternate or yes or whatever it might be. And you come over and you go, hey, why did you do this, right? A lot of the times people were like, well, watch me dance now. And I'm like, that doesn't help, right? Like, I have no idea what you did. This does not equate with what you did out there in that moment at that time and when I saw you. But I'll tell you how I judge. And if you didn't make that, then generally speaking, you didn't fall into this criteria at the times that I saw you. Or, you know, like, send me a video and I'll kind of review and recap. But a lot of the times, like, I've done this for students where they'll send me the videos and they'll be like, hey, you gave me a no, or you gave me a yes, or an alternate or whatever. They'll send me the video and like, they're like, but look at this dance. And I'm like, yeah, but look at where I am. Like, I'm not even in the video watching you. Like, I'm looking at the complete other side of the floor. You know, so like, if this was your best dance, I didn't get to see it. So, you know, it just happens sometimes, and it is what it is, right? And I think as long as judges can justify their scores as to why they have given you what they have given and can provide reasoning and logic behind it, then that's totally fine. And unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. Like, I've had judges say random things that I'm like, cool, thank you.
You've forgotten about me, haven't you?
Yeah. Sorry. Like, one time someone told me after first it was just eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And I was like, cool, that's rough, right? And I was a junior. I was a junior at the time. So, like, you know, and like, I don't know why they said that. Maybe that's how they do it. Maybe that's not. But that's a lasting impression that then I have of this judge and what they do. So you can ask judges. I always just say, like, just be respectful of their time. If you want to, book a lesson, right? That always helps. But if you need, you know, just like feedback from the thing, more often than not, people are pretty amenable to things like that. A brief kind of, you know, hey, this is why, you know, X, Y, and Z kind of a deal.
Do you still get nervous dancing on the stage?
Sometimes. You know, it's funny. Emma asked me that this past weekend at Shakedown. She asked if I get nervous. And I was like, sort of. But it's a different kind of nerves. It's a different kind of, like, I want to produce something that people are going to enjoy and that they like. Like, so for instance, flying me down to New Zealand, like, I don't want to disappoint. That's quite the journey for me to be like, here's a mediocre dance, right? So it's more nerves in that regard, not nerves of like, oh, I have to dance with Ben. Right, or I have to do this invitational. That doesn't always affect me sometimes, but
you don't want to let the audience down.
Right,
You don't want to
right.
let people down
Yeah.
outside of yourself.
Yeah.
Which can sometimes bring up a little bit of nerves.
Yeah,
and,
that anxiety.
pressure and
Yeah.
that sort of stuff.
100%. And like, for me, spotlights are far more comfortable than a heated division. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just my mentality or my mindset. But generally speaking, spotlights, like, this is going to sound super cocky, so please don't take it this way. But like, I don't question where the attention is because it's on me. And some people love that because there is no, like, diversion. And like, in a heated prelim, if I hear cheering over here, I start panicking. Am I not doing enough? And so I start questioning what I'm doing, more so than just in the spotlight, I'm just going to do my dance. And it's a lot more reassuring. I know that sounds really cocky, and that's not the intent, but it's easier for my mentality because now eyes are just on me and my partner in the moment. And so I can do what I'm going to do. Whereas the prelims, I start questioning, am I doing enough? Should I overdo? I should have done this. Why didn't I do this? And I start overanalyzing things. It's like a multiple choice quiz. I start, you know, overanalyzing the multiple choice, right? I did C last time. Should I do C again? You know, it just freaks me out. And so it's just a different mentality and mindset. And I know people who, you know, like one, like the other, whatever it might be. And so, Yeah, everyone's slightly different. I think most people lean towards you and your mentality of like, spotlights make me anxious. And I'm like, bring it on.
I think it's even worse when it's a home crowd, like the ones that you've danced to them before. You know, it's your community, so they know what level you're at. And then there's like, oh, shush, I'm not dancing at that level. It's worse than going overseas. No one knows you. It's like, yeah, this is who I am. No, it's easy. Whereas, like, you dance at home. Like,
no expectations.
That kind of thing. I was like, my hand was, like, shaking like that after my comp. I was like, oh, sheesh.
Yeah, well, with expectations, though, right? Like, remember that, like, you know, you can be the best dancer in this circuit, and you can have your best partner and the best song and the best floor and your best outfit, and you can tank it. Because that's just the nature of this dance, right? Like, you can't worry about the expectation. Like, you're going to do what you're going to do, and either you do it well or you don't, and that's okay either way, right? Because we're going to have good days, we're going to have bad days in this dance, and that's where the Etch-a-Sketch really comes into play, I think. But, like, you don't get to control everything. So, you know, we do the best we can with our communication and go from there, right?
To be kind to yourself sometimes, I think, you know.
No, not me.
We all
everyone
have
else
bad
can
days.
be kind to themselves. Yeah, everyone else can be kind. I encourage that for everyone else, but not me. That's different.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be mean to myself, but it's true. We get really critical of ourselves and put these like expectations on everything.
Yeah.
You're totally right.
Yeah, I think we're all our own worst critics a lot of the time. And yeah, well, I know I definitely am. In terms of, I guess, competing, and I mean, for me, one of the things I try and focus on is I try and focus on the competition with myself. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, you know, each time that I compete or each time I perform, whether it be judged or not, it's I want to do better than the last time or the last time I was in this type of situation, or I want to, you know, sometimes you can't control, for example, what lead you get or what song you get. And it might be, hey, I'm not great at slow contemporary, for example, but I'm going to do better next time that I have a slow contemporary song, and I'm going to try to dance that song the best I can and show, you know, what I can bring to the floor. So what sort of advice would you give people in terms of competition and mindset, and how to kind of get into the right mindset and deal with some of those setbacks and actually focus on what you can control?
Yeah, I think one is recognizing that we don't have like a lot of control. Like, this is very much so just life and therapy in general, but like we don't have a lot of control over things, you know, like you know, a hurricane can happen tomorrow and I'll be stuck here and stranded in New Zealand for an extra week or so, right? Like, I don't control that. My plane can suddenly have malfunctions and issues, and I can't leave then for...
Look, lights.
It's okay.
Mood lighting.
Now
We'll just have the deep shadows on me now, actually. We're just getting dark with competition. This is perfect.
we're now getting deep into conversation.
Deep into it, that's why.
After dark.
After dark, yes, the after dark version. I'm here for it. That was at the questionable bar you took me to the other night. Yeah, we should tell everyone about that for sure.
When you come to New Zealand, man, we're gonna
Don't trust Poe. If he's like, this is a nice New Zealand bar, it's not, guys. It's a dive bar where a drunk man tries to eat your fries off the table.
I had to stand up. And
You did.
I put myself in between.
Which I appreciate. Thank you. That was very kind. Minimum. That's what I needed. I was like, wow, we went to a sketch place here, guys. So when you're out in New Zealand, find Michael and go out to this lovely, lovely bar. It's the New Zealand experience. If you don't go to Hobbiton, no. Go to this bar with Michael. You're gonna love it.
For anyone that does visit us in NZ, so our Thursday night class, we always go to the same pub afterwards, and we have a drink and we have catch-ups, and
we're just
you know,
culture. That's our local every Thursday. That's where we go.
Yeah,
That's just a bar culture. Like, it's just a dive bar. That's not like a traditional New Zealand experience.
So you say.
I got showed the area last night that you could have also taken me to, and I was like, what the heck? From Toonsby or something?
We could have gone left, we could have gone right.
Yeah,
we chose right.
Oh, we went right. Yeah, just like the roundabouts. We went right around, yeah.
Oh, you guys don't have much roundabouts, do you?
No, we do, but they go normal.
Of course,
they go left for us. They go around, yeah, which makes sense for you guys.
Have you driven around New Zealand yet?
No, God, no. Everyone keeps offering me their cars, which, like, thank you all so much. What a vote of confidence. But I will crash your car immediately. It's on the other side of the road. And then, like, different road signs that I would just not know what to do. I'd be turning left on a red light, which you guys can't do here. I'd probably hit some pedestrians along the way. I would screw up the roundabouts.
200 points, that's fine.
Yeah, just 200 points. We'll go back to your question, though, the developing that skill set and the mindset of getting into competition. So one thing that I think is really important is, like, you have to recognize, like, what you control and what you don't control, and be comfortable with that and be okay with that this is all a very random situation. What heat did you get into? Who were your random partners? When did the judges watch you, right? And so I think letting go of that anxiety of trying to control has always helped me, right? Of just kind of relaxing into it. What's going to happen is going to happen, and, you know, being realistic about the situation. And then recognizing, like what you said, like, okay, so I didn't do great with that acoustic song. I don't normally do. How can I make it better? Well, okay, well, I'm going to practice more to acoustic songs, right? I'm going to work harder at being better at that genre, or slower dancing or faster dancing, or working with different partners, accommodating in the moment, hitting phrase changes for myself. There's so many things that we can look at and reflect on without being super critical and mean to ourselves, and go, okay, what can I do better here? Right? And then how do I do that? I got to train for it, right? A lot of the times I think there's this expectation of, like, new fancy drills in West Coast swing. And they're not. Like, if I go into a ballet class, I'm going to do tendus, I'm going to do pliés, I'm going to do my, port de bras, I'm going to do leaps across the floor, I'm going to do turns, I'm going to do the same things every time. They just get harder and harder and harder. And so our drills should be matching that as well. How many times can I do a sugar push? Well, the more I do it, the more consistent I get, the more I understand how I'm moving in my body, the weight transfers and everything like that. So I don't stop doing sugar pushes once I get walk, walk, triple, triple. I keep working on them over and over and over. I don't stop working on my connection, because so many things influence us in this dance. Our bad habits really do translate to one another. If I dance with you a lot, or I dance in this a lot, maybe I start doing things wrong. And so it's a constant work of evolution and progress, but it's the same drills. It's coming back to the same technique. I mean, how many times have you guys taken a lesson or given a lesson where you're giving the same advice and you go, oh, yeah, my coach just told me that 100 times.
Yep.
I should really go back to doing that, right?
Yeah.
It's not because they're, like, lazy and tired. They're literally telling you the thing you got to do. And I've had so many lessons where I'll go through and they're like, hey, remember that thing that we've constantly worked on? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you got to do it again. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I got to work on that, right? And so the constant training, it never ends. You don't.
Story of my life. It feels like you've been
story of my life. Right?
All my private lessons. It's the same thing over and over again.
It's not unique. Like, it's not unique to one person. It's dance. And it's dance that's constantly evolving and changing. And in a situation where we influence each other so heavily, we'll look back at old videos and go, wow, I really lost this in my dancing. How did I lose that? And I really want that back. How do I get it back? Right? Or I gained this and I really like it. How do I keep it? And so it's a balancing act of trying to constantly work on our dancing. And it just shifts in how you do it, right? Like, I don't stop training now. I take workshops when I can, and I'll just go and I'll sit and I'll take notes. There was, all-star champs in Ben and I's workshop, at Shakedown. That's fantastic, right? Because you're never not learning, right? I've never left a class or a workshop or a private and gone, I didn't learn anything in that. You learn something, how to teach things in a slightly different way, how to break them down in a different way to reach other students, different things that we just don't realize, we're doing or we're not doing in this moment. And I think it's just essential that we keep that training going. A constant movement towards progress and bettering ourselves at all stages of this dance. And then I think also, like, the mental side of things, like, I found that it's really important to listen to yourself. Like, we all do things differently. Like, someone one time told me years ago that, like, I had to go out and watch other classic competitors dance before me and cheer them on and absorb the energy and then take it out. That doesn't always work for me. Sometimes it will. Sometimes it doesn't. And that's just because of my mindset. Like, sometimes I watch them do their routine and then I panic because I don't know their routine, which is stupid, because why would I? It's not my routine, right? And then I panic as to whether I know my routine. And so it just doesn't put me in a good mindset. So instead, what do I need to do? Okay, I'm going to stretch in a corner and have my headphones in. But if that day, like, I don't feel like I need to, then I don't do that, right? Like it's important to listen to your body and yourself and the things you need. Like one of my best Jack and Jill dances that I had, and like a perfect example of this mindset, like I had left my room and I had like dressed up in this outfit, and I was doing it to kind of appease what I thought like judges would want. Like, oh, I shouldn't do the boots because I don't think they're gonna like it. I'm gonna go back to the sandals. Oh, I shouldn't do these because like that doesn't, okay. And I left my room and I felt so uncomfortable, and I just like turned around and walked back and I changed. And I put on the outfit that like I wanted to wear and like kind of reset myself and then left. And then I had the dance with Sean, the champion of champions at Phoenix 4th. And that was one of my best dances, I feel, that I have had in a Jack and Jill. And it's because I listened to myself, you know. I didn't want to watch the contest before. I just wasn't in that space to do so. I didn't like the outfit I was wearing, so I went and I changed. And so I think listening to ourselves and our gut and our intuition is really essential when it comes to competition. And if you feel a certain thing that you need to do this, you need to do that, then go do those things. If you need to sleep and take a nap beforehand, if you want to chill out and watch, you know, I don't know, a World War II documentary, go do the thing, right? Because if that's what gets us into that space, then we should do it to yield whatever we feel we need at that moment. It might change, and that's okay. Or like a mantra. Like I know people who do like a little like mindset, you know, they'll do like a little meditation, they'll talk to themselves a little and then go out. But whatever you need to do that thing, right? Because at that point, like your training should have kicked in, right? Like champion dancers often talk about like you win not on the classic floor or the showcase floor, you win in the practice floor because you are so well rehearsed, you feel so good. It doesn't matter what happens out there, you can adapt in the moment and change because you've already won by practicing so much and so consistently and methodically, right? So the winning comes from the practice, not from doing it on the floor. And that's true of Jack and Jill's and Strictly, it's just in a very different capacity.
It's kind of that whole, you know, it's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
You end up getting somewhere because you put in the effort.
Yeah. And like Kobe Bryant talked about this a lot. I grew up watching Kobe, like you guys know, I'm a huge Lakers fan and Kobe fan, but he talks about this, like at the end of the day, like I can win our biggest competition. So say I go and I win the US Open, like the next day I still have to get up and do the thing. I have to go train. I have to go work on my dance. Maybe not the next day, but you know, the day after, right? I need to go train, you know, like, so that doesn't change. If I lose the US Open, I'm going to get up the next morning, I'm going to go train. Like, it doesn't matter. So like, is it great when you win? Like, absolutely. Like, there is no denying that. Like, you feel incredible. You're like, I'm king of the world. Look at my trophy. Look at the money I just made. Look at all the good, positive feedback that I'm getting because of this. But it has to be about everything else, too. Like, you have to love that journey. Because otherwise, like, natural talent will only get you so far, you know? And so you have to love that practice and that training. And the best dancers that we have in this community are people who love that. Right?
The process.
Yeah. So, I guess the other thing I would love to know, this whole way through, you've sort of talked about your whole dance journey and how you fell in love with West Coast Swing. What is it about West Coast Swing that you love and that has kept you going?
Ooh. I think there's two things that I probably more, but there's two things that I thoroughly love about West Coast Swing, and one is the say of the follower. Right, I think that's one thing that I have always been attracted to, is that a lot of the times you see partner dancing like Latin and ballroom, and there's not a huge say of the follower. You know, it's the leader getting to dance and then follows there, right? And West Coast really kind of flips that on the head. It's such an open communication. And other dances have changed that, but I think the level that we do of allowing follows to have their say. And I talk about this a lot, like, you know, follows can really control a dance, you know what I mean? They can set the tone for it. They can, in a kind way, kind of manipulate their leader to do the things that they would like to do as well. You know, I can help set my partner up for a phrase change. I can help bring in musicality. I can take over when they need me to, and vice versa, or when I want to.
Keep the leads on time as well.
Exactly, the leads on time as well. And that's important. Like, I want to have a say in this dance. Like, I don't want to be a bystander. I want to be an active participant. And then I can choose my moments as to when I am actually creating with you. And understanding the structure of this, leads provide a certain thing, follows provides, you know, a certain thing in this dance, you know, allows us to play those roles and then shift them, right? So that's one thing that I really love, is the say of the follow. in this dance and in this structure. And then I think the constant creativeness, right? The pushing of ourselves as a dancer, right? How far can I go? And other dance styles do this as well. This is also why, like, I love contemporary and jazz and, things like that. I'm not great at hip hop. Go to Victoria for hip hop if you need hip hop. She's fantastic at it. I'm like, I'll hang out. We'll do a jazz funk, but not hip hop. But like, you look at these other styles that really push in terms of the creativeness, and because our dance is so driven by the contemporary music of the time, it's constantly evolving and shifting and changing, and then new styles are influencing it, new dance styles, new clothing styles, new shoe styles, which all affect our dance. So it's a constant evolution and growth. It's not stagnant. It doesn't stay in one place. And it doesn't perfect itself. It's constantly working on itself. And so those two things, what can I do? How many times have you gotten the same song in a Jack and Jill and thought, well, I don't know what else to do to this, right? That push and that drive of what can I do? Or you get a brand new song that you don't know. What can I do to this, right? How can I recreate this lovely moment with this person who I've danced with, millions of times, right? For me at least, right? Like with like a Morris, right? Like, so if we get this song, how do we revive it in a different way? What do we do that's different and unique and captivating that others necessarily haven't done before, or maybe a spin-off of it or something like that? So I think those are the two most important things for the dance for me, and I think that'll keep me in this forever. I mean, watching Showcase with Benji and Heidi, I want to say it was like 2001, was just one of the coolest things I think I've ever seen, and that it blew my mind, and I wanted to do it from there on out.
Dude, thank you very much. We do have to wrap this up, get you to your private lesson.
Nah, you don't have to do that. I'll be fine with it.
But before we wrap up, was it, I know you run an event. Did you want to talk a little bit about it? Yeah.
Definitely. So Monterey Swing Fest. It's an event like no otter. I should have said an otter like an animal. The otter! Shoot. Okay, so I dance like an otter. They are predators. I guess that's me too. So we'll go back, just edit that. Be like the monkey and the otter. Just me changing it last minute.
A monkey otter?
A monkey otter. There you go. An otter monkey.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. An otter monkey. I like that. But it's an event like no otter. So it's January 11 through 16. It's in Monterey, California. It's a beautiful, beautiful destination. It was one of the 3 John Wheaton events, and unfortunately we lost John Wheaton last year. That's Monterey Swing Fest, Jack and Jill Rama, and Halloween Swing Thing. Halloween Swing Thing's coming up, but I think that's your New Zealand Open, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You guys got to move the dates, and then you can come over.
I think we are moving the dates.
Oh, good. Perfect.
We
Perfect.
are moving the dates next year.
And new venue too, I think.
New venue. It's going to be back-to-back with our Australian event as well, the NZO.
Nice.
So any Americans coming over can do Down Under tour.
Yeah, a Down Under tour. I like it. He'll take you to the bar. It'll be it'll be great. It'll be questionable at best. But Monterey Swing Fest. We are live at montereyswing.com. You can purchase your tickets. We also do a Benji boot camp, which we've had at this event for a long, long time. I don't even know how long at this point. And basically, it's a really intensive that we do leading into the weekend. So Wednesday and then Thursday to really get your dancing in tip-top shape before going through the weekend. And then we do fun activities in Monterey. So we go out and we do wine tasting, like right on the water. You get to see the waves rolling in and crashing in and get a taste of California wines, which are, I'm biased, but I think they're delicious. We do like a nature hike. We do a puppy play date because it's a dog-friendly hotel. Oh yeah, and you can go. You don't have to bring a dog. You can just go and play with the dogs. I did last year. It was great. Don't tell my dog though. He'll be furious.
The dogs aren't going to like her. She's a cat woman.
I like all animals.
There you go. Yeah, they'll still like you. I got you.
I own cats because they look after themselves.
There you go. That's fair. That's fair. I like that. But yeah, check it out. And then this year we're kind of doing something different that most events don't do. We're offering insurance on our tickets. So say you guys, buy and you're like, it's a long trip. I don't know if I'll be able to make it. What happens if COVID has a resurgence? What happens if my flight gets canceled? So we're offering insurance on 3 different tiers that I'll explain in just a second. But the insurance guarantees that you can get a full refund back, which I know has been an issue with events. One, coming back, it's been tricky given the financial status of events, but then also for you guys, like if you're buying an event pass, you want to make sure that, what if I can't go? And rollovers are being offered. We'll offer a rollover. If you can't make it, we'll roll over your pass to the next year. So long as you contact us prior to the start of the event, which is on Wednesday at like 4 o'clock Pacific time. And all this info is on our website too. But what we're trying to do is offer an incentive so that you guys can still get a full refund right, without it affecting the event, but then you guys feel safe as well. So we're offering 3 tiers of that. We have 3 main things that we're offering. So the Benji Boot Camp and that ticket, the full weekend pass, and then all of your contests and competitions that you pay for. So the first tier is just $15 US, and you get one of those covered. So say you want your weekend pass covered, okay, cool, then you can get a full refund on it. Or just the Benji Boot Camp or just your competitions. The second tier is gonna have $20 and it's for both. You get 2 out of the 3, right? You get the Benji Boot Camp, your contest, or the full weekend pass, and then for $30, it's all 3. We'll roll over either the Benji Boot Camp or your weekend pass, so long as you contact us before the start of the event, but not your contest. That's just really hard to keep track of. I tried that once, and it's a little pain in the butt. Logistically, it's really difficult to try and do. You can, it's just a lot more work. So we're trying to do this to help with international folks as well, to make it more appealing, hopefully, to come. But check it out, it's monterey-swing.com. We have most of our staff list up there for this upcoming year. Yeah, I'll be there. You're stuck with me. So myself and Benji are on the event. And yeah, it's going to be an event like no other, guys. Woo. I know, exciting.
Thank you very much for coming down under.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh my God. Well, I got a piece of you. You're coming home with me, guys. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I got a tattoo. I got my first ever tattoo here, and I'm so excited for it. It's really cool. Every time I see it, I'm like, that's so cool. And I can't really see it. It's on my back.
Every time you see someone, you're gonna be like,
oh, look at this, guys. Look at this.
You have to get new T-shirts done. You know.
I know, just a giant hole on my shoulder blade on the back. Yeah. Oh my God, that would be funny.
Thank you, Tara. Let's get you into your private lesson, but
they're
thank
fine.
you so much.
No, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. It's awesome hanging with you guys down here.
Oh, cuddles.
Yeah, I'll cuddle you. There's actually the mic going.